A lone figure stands on a deserted road. The young man faces a scene of devastation. A horrific accident seems to have just occurred. He raises his hand, and the road instantly repairs itself. Not a trace of the chaos remains. A truly astonishing feat of magic. The young man has completely restored the road. A gentle breeze blows, knocking off his hood. His face is revealed. A handsome young man with platinum blonde hair. They continuously ravage the resurrected human world. Those with restorative abilities are in an office. An ordinary office worker is chatting on the phone. He complains about always having to clean up after him. "You're too quick," he says. "Next time, try to leave a few mistakes." The platinum-haired young man says goodbye before hanging up. The person on the other end keeps talking. "The compensation for this job is quite generous. I'm just saying, I'm worried about you." The conversation ends. Wilson continues carrying the prop to complete his assigned task. As he walks, he wonders, why did Chahun seek me out? Lost in thought, he's crossing the street when a car suddenly speeds towards him, making him jump. The car stops, and a man in a sharp, expensive suit steps out. He recognizes Chahun, who greets him with a smile. "I've been looking for you, Entrepreneur Wilson. Shouldn't we exchange greetings first?" Chahun extends his hand. "I want to invite you to join my organization. I'll give you anything you desire." In contrast to Chahun's enthusiasm, Wilson quickly walks away. "I'm sorry, but I can't collaborate with any organization right now. I have to go. I have something urgent to attend to." He grabs Wilson's arm. "Hold on, my bad, John Ewison. Hope you have a truly wonderful day." He hands Ewison his business card and walks away. He continues to the mission location. Opening the door, he's taken aback by the scene inside. Three men emerge from the room, looking deeply disturbed. They resemble lifeless zombies. It turns out they're Ewison's family. He sets a lavish dinner table, a cake as the centerpiece. "Were you all upset," he asks, "that I forgot to make dinner? I bought you all a super expensive cake. You said you wanted cake from this bakery. Look how pretty it is. Skip the singing and dancing. You're wasting time. Eat it quick before it loses its value." You guys eat too. Unlike his enthusiasm, 6 people sat at the table, but no one spoke. Only unsettling grunts filled the silence. They looked like empty shells, devoid of life. The boy reached out and took the man's hand. "Hey, on June," he said, "it's your birthday. You should cut the cake." The man's hand was limp, unable to grasp anything. His frail body let the knife slip and clatter to the floor. Stunned, the boy picked up the knife. "What's wrong? Do you want me to cut it for you?" "Seriously," he exclaimed, looking at the man. The man only made strange, guttural sounds. Drool dribbled from his mouth, his vacant eyes staring at the ceiling. Tears welled up in the boy's eyes. "Happy birthday, Gang Song." Inside a shop, a young man continued to work casually, oblivious to the lifeless figures outside. He injected a needle into one of the bodies. Even in their decomposed state, they still moved, feeling utterly hopeless. The boy remembered the handsome man who had offered. "Here's my card. Give him a call. Tell him you'll take the district office cleanup job." You arrive at the committee headquarters. The scene before you is utter devastation. Everything is in ruins. You think to yourself, I don't know about all this, but making a living is more important than joining a guild. You recall the conversation with the man at the office. "I know why you haven't gone to Seoul. That's where all the lucrative jobs are. Isn't it, Wilson? We have to seize this opportunity. The damage is only B rank, but the compensation is A rank. I'm giving you the restoration contract." I wonder if it's because of that A-rank dungeon appearing, but it's been eerily quiet all morning. Back in the present, you walk towards the building. Doesn't seem like there's anything here. He placed his hand on the wall. Immediately, a bright light flared. Large fragments snapped together, like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, as if trying to fill the void amidst the devastation. The pieces of matter continuously connected, like watercolors spreading across paper. The remaining debris couldn't be rejoined. The power of an S-rank healer, having consumed so much energy, left him exhausted. He dropped to one knee, gasping for breath. Suddenly, applause erupted from behind. Siren approached, smiling in admiration. "Magnificent! Quite a terrifying sight." Wilson hastily pulled his hat down, startled. "How did you know I was here?" He let out a nervous laugh. "Interesting, Wilson. Let's just say I didn't know. Don't misunderstand. I wasn't trying to be sarcastic. It's just that I find the way a non-hunter thinks is truly unusual." He offers a hand to help him up. He looks annoyed, brushes his hand away, and struggles to his feet. He rubs his rejected hand and says, "Hey, it's okay, no problem. But why are you only half healed?" He corners him against the wall, leaning in to ask, shouldn't you be fully recovered by now? Is the rumor about Jang Sung-soo being an S-rank healer just a bunch of nonsense? Or are you doing this on purpose? As if startled by the question, he hesitates. He strokes his hair, smiling as he says, sometimes I see the abilities of awakened individuals weaken. The main cause is PTSD, related to traumatic events. Are you hiding something? Chong Yuzian thought to himself, wondering, there wasn't anyone there a moment ago. I made sure to check my surroundings thoroughly. How could there be traces of a shadow? The denser the darkness, the stronger Sa Hyan becomes. Rumor has it those shadows aren't just granted superhuman strength, but also the ability to teleport. Is he using that power to track me? He smirked. Jae-won, if you don't mind, allow me to clarify. I'm interested in learning more about you. Jae-won stood up. Yes, that's correct. My power has significantly weakened. Compared to before, it's not even half. The Awakening Guild has countless A-rank awakened. Why not use them instead? He looked him in the eye, his voice firm. Leave me alone. He calmly reassured him. Yu-sung, don't worry. Their maximum power is only equal to your minimum. Your existence is unique. He caressed his hand, then unexpectedly interlaced their fingers. Their hands were now intertwined. With proper care, you'll be back to your old self. Jong Yu-sung, go and rest. I'll take care of you personally. He blushed, embarrassed. Suddenly, the man pulled him closer, speaking confidently. I'm very good at taking care of people, he whispered in his ear. See you later, Jong Yu-sung. He smiled and left. When Yu-sung turned around, he was gone. Only silence remained. Sweating, he thought to himself, is he crazy? No, he's insane. Is he out of his mind? Another phone call. It was the office worker again. He said cheerfully, Hey, Yu-sung. About restoring the district committee's private office. The other day, everything went smoothly. Did you intentionally leave a clue? Man, even AI would be jealous of me partnering with an A-rank awakened. Isn't it great that the market promised to handle everything discreetly? You sit hunched over in a small chair, inside a shabby house, silent. The person on the other end of the line continues to chatter endlessly. Oh my, I forgot. You've worked so hard, and here I am, just bragging away. What would you like to eat? Should I order you some meal? Interrupting, you say, I'm not taking any more jobs for now. The guy on the other end is stunned, completely speechless. He adjusts his posture and stammers. Is that okay? Once a dungeon appears, the association will assess the damage and provide restoration rights. In other words, it's a competition for revival rights. Most of the revived are contracted through exchange centers, those who hold the power of resurrection. The reason is smaller guilds lack the resources to care for the revived. He continued, I understand. Call me anytime you want to come back. The call ended. Suddenly, a man named Anson walked past him. He looked at him with lustful eyes, terrifying like a monster, void of thought, void of soul. He broke out in a cold sweat, stood up, put on his cap, and hurried out. He went to buy some takeout for dinner. A small piece of land outside. That's all I want. Suddenly, he saw a familiar figure, standing under a tree. He spoke up, meeting by chance 3 times as fate. It seems we're meant to be together, you Jinwoo. Jinwoo thought, this can't be a coincidence. He's clinging to me like a leech. Jinwoo said, I told you I don't like talking to people. So why do you keep following me? It's annoying. This isn't a request. It's coercion and harassment. I'm busy. Excuse me. Jinwoo brushed past him. He smiled, watching Jinwoo walk away. Jinwoo bought medicine with the money he earned from getting hurt, despite only being a D-rank. A medicine that removes abnormal status effects. He wondered why, every time they met, Jinwoo always claimed to be busy and wanted to leave. Jinwoo froze, his expression filled with anxiety. He stepped closer, right behind Jinwoo. Your suspicious behavior made me curious. He walked closer, glancing at your apartment, and casually asked, strange, what's inside that place? He pulled you closer, his voice icy. Before I leave, I'll make this clear just once. I haven't coerced or threatened you. Wilson panicked, sweat drenching him as the man walked away. He dropped his bag and frantically ran inside. He can't find out my secret, he thought. He cowered, collapsing by the door, burying his face in his knees. Are all hunters like this? Pretending to be kind to get close, but ultimately not caring about my feelings. Just how much does Hyunwoo know? Inside his apartment, figures shuffled around like zombies. Suddenly his phone rang. An unknown number. He answers the phone. Hello? If this is a telemarketer, I'm hanging up. The voice on the other end says, Wu Jin? How are you doing? It's Jinwa's uncle. It's June. He stares at the man in front of him, stunned. The man is no longer normal. He's like a walking corpse, devoid of life. He remembers the scene at the dinner table the other day, with a group of people, emotionless, like they were drained of all vitality. His heart pounds in his chest, fear gripping his mind. The man continues, Let's meet up sometime, Wu Jin, at Cafe X. He goes to meet his uncle. As he walks into the cafe, his uncle spots him immediately and waves him over. Wu Jin, over here. Their eyes meet. His uncle speaks. Why do you look so pale? Have you eaten anything? He pulls his hat down lower, sits down in the chair opposite him, and replies, I've fine. What did you want to ask me? You aren't a healer anymore? What are you doing these days? Seems like my advice didn't have much effect on you. Why did you suddenly lose contact that day? He flinched, his hands trembling uncontrollably. The horrific scene of that day flashed back in his mind. Everything was in ruins. People were lifeless, devoid of reason. The man continued, I'm sorry. 25 is still too young. My mental state was unstable, so I couldn't contact anyone. You said you didn't want to contact anyone you knew. He grasped the young man's hand, startling him. He said, But my daughter is in college now, and I kept thinking about you. Wilson yanked his hand back, flustered by the man's sudden action. He stammered, about that. Sir, how did you get my number? The man fumbled with his words. I called Gun Tizik. He wondered, did Mr. Gun Tizik and the other two know each other? Suddenly, the man stood up, excusing himself to use the restroom. As he passed, he lightly patted the boy's shoulder. I hope we can talk a bit more later today. User froze, touching the spot on his shoulder where the man had touched him. He recalled the man's strange behavior, holding his hand, uttering unsettling words with a lustful expression. I've been thinking about you. He thought of his friends, now panicking in his own home. He left without a word. When the man returned to the table with a tray of pastries, the boy was gone. Wilson raced home, thinking, I have to get home right now. I can't leave him alone. Medicine or whatever it takes. I have to find a way. Running down the street, a woman suddenly called out his name. Hey, Zenith. He stopped in his tracks, slowly turned around, and pulled his hat down low. Oh, where are you rushing off to? The woman asked. I didn't hear you calling, he stammered. Who is this? He felt a surge of anxiety upon seeing her. It was Yang Jun's aunt. Her eyes narrowed with suspicion. You just saw my husband, didn't you? I know everything. She glanced around furtively before whispering. He didn't tell you anything, did he? Wilson looked confused. Tell me what? She pressed. He told me not to say anything, but I feel so guilty. It's been weighing on my conscience. Earlier, we got a call from an unknown number. Yang Yunis Onkulinsit. The person on the other end said, they were calling from outside Jeju Island. They asked if we wanted to send you our regards and told us to keep the line open for 2 hours. Then they transferred 40 million won into our account. I took it because our daughter needs money for school. Wilson's face paled, sweat dripping from his brow. Panic seized him. He suddenly understood. Someone had put the old man up to calling him. Someone was trying to lure him out of the house. He raced back home, gasping for breath. Who could afford to pay that kind of money? He flung open the door. The house was shrouded in darkness. A faint light spilled in from the hallway. He could just make out the silhouette of a large man, standing in the middle of the small house. The man turned, his eyes as sharp as knives, faster than I expected. Wilson lunged, grabbing the man by the collar. Who are you? He roared. What are you doing here? Shaheen replied, just came to pay your friend Wilson a visit. But his eyes flicked towards the vacant-faced figures, neither human nor demon, like lingering ghosts. He grinned. My friends aren't exactly the talkative type. Are you crazy? He yanked his hand back. I told you to leave me alone. Why can't you just listen to people? Why do you ignore what I say? He calmly replied, I just wanted to get to know you. Simply. He grabbed his hand. 1 year ago, he disappeared after the second Great Dungeon emergence, the second Dungeon Grand burst. The first linked Dungeon Grand appeared in Korea. Most of those pulled into the gate were civilians. A gate appeared in the sky, swallowing everything in its path. Panic ensued. Chaos reigned. Only 6 hunters, all C or D rank, were trapped inside when the gate closed, with no chance of backup. Everyone assumed they were dead. It was only natural. Amidst the desolate ruins, Wu Xian stood alone, battered and bruised, tears streaming down his face. Cyan continues, but he was already outside. The only survivors were him and his friends, who sacrificed themselves fighting the monsters. Until the very last moment, I think there must be a hidden secret behind this. The strange phenomenon reported in the news, the longing look on his face towards his home, the cake he carried on the day he left. It was Kang Yangjuan's birthday. So, I tried contacting his relatives, but I never expected this. The once vibrant young man was now a frail, wrinkled old man, his eyes dull and lifeless like a zombie. Cyan held Wu Xian's trembling hand, looked at them, and said, "He's truly audacious," he sobbed. "Why? Why would you do this to me? Are you planning to backstab me like this?" He smirked, releasing his grip. "I told you, I want you to join the organization." He pulled him closer. "Just sign this contract." He blushed, shouting, "What the hell are you talking about? I have no interest in that. Leave me alone." He leaned in, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "I'll kill them. Those corpses you're keeping." He gestured towards the bodies. "I will kill them." Suddenly, a corpse slammed its head against the wall uncontrollably. He watched, bursting into tears and covering his face. You don't understand. How can you joke about something so cruel?" He smiled. "Wilson, you want to kill those corpses too, don't you?" I do want to, but I can't. Because of that damned ability of yours." Wu Xian was terrified, his whole body trembling uncontrollably. He let go of him. If it weren't for this, he definitely would never have bought a status removal potion. He stared at him in shock. He knew everything. This man knew everything. He raised his hand and said, "My secret ability is nullification. Just by being touched by me, any ability will disappear for 5 minutes. Whether it's an object or a person. Consider yourself lucky." The penalty isn't light either, he thought. What was his reason for persistently following him? What did he ultimately want? He suddenly stepped closer. "Wu Xian, I believe I told you before. This isn't a request. This isn't a request. It's coercion, or rather a threat. If you don't cooperate with me, I will report this body to the Hunters Association and expose everything. Consider that a warning. If you continue to ignore me, I'll kidnap your friends, dismember them, and use them as test subjects until they die." That was a threat. But if you agree to cooperate now, if we work together in the future, regarding the body behind me, he continues to relentlessly bang his head against the wall. He continues, "I'll grant each of your friends a peaceful death. Now this is an offer." Wilson looks at Shahoin's outstretched hand, then at the horrific scene before him, at his friends. We're not ordinary humans anymore. He pondered silently. Everything felt confusing. But if what Cyan said was true, if there was another path, he couldn't refuse. She reached out, taking Cyan's outstretched hand. Her expression hesitant. He smiled and said, "I hope you'll help us, Diyun." The next morning, as dawn broke, birds chirped and soared across the clear blue sky. The gentle morning sunlight danced playfully. Duyun, Viaring Aoji, in a baseball cap, stood under a tree. He held a card, studying it intently, lost in thought about last night's events. Cyan had given him this card. He said to use it later. Holding the card, he wondered, "What is this?" Cyan began to explain. "I need you at 100%. Staying here will severely impact both your physical and mental state. You should move to that place. It's right next to my house, so it'll be easier to contact you if needed." "Wait," you asked, surprised. "What about my friends? What if they wander around and bump into something or get hit by a falling bookshelf?" He laughs. "Wilson, you worry too much. Do you think they'll die from that?" You glance at your friends, listlessly wandering around the house. They're just empty shells now. Broken bodies somehow brought back to a semblance of life. Shireen reaches out, touching your hair. "When your powers are fully restored," she says, "I'll keep my promise. I'll let you come back." You hold her close, remembering that promise. "Those bodies you're keeping, I'll help you destroy them." You compose yourself and ask, "When are you going to fulfill your promise?" He laughed, grabbing the hand holding the apartment key card. "Haha, you'll find out soon enough. Remember this. It's important." Back in the present, he stared at the key card, sweat beading on his forehead. Birds chirped in the trees, pulling him from his thoughts. A black car approached, stopping right in front of him. A man in a black suit, wearing dark sunglasses, stepped out. He opened the door, gesturing for him to enter. His savior, Wilson, welcomed him to the conference headquarters. The car drove on, arriving at a complex of towering skyscrapers. He stood there, jaw agape, gazing up at the immense height of the buildings. "Wow, this is the conference headquarters?" The guard speaks into his radio, then gestures toward Wu Xian with a formal hand. The encoding department is on the 42nd floor. I'll escort you to the waiting area. Wu Xian enters the building. The interior is breathtakingly grand and opulent. It's bustling with activity. He's led to an elevator, which whisks him up to the 42nd floor. The guard announces, "This is where the encoding specialists work. Someone is waiting for you inside." Since entering the building, Wu Xian has been captivated by the architecture. He's filled with awe and admiration. The guard swipes a card, and the door opens. A young man greets him with a bright, enthusiastic smile. "Whoa, you're the one who recovered Wilson?" "It's Kiju, an A-rank hunter." Another young man, also smiling, asks, "Are you all right?" Wilson stammered, flustered. "You're the only AI." Wu Jin continued, "I thought you'd be head over heels for the chief. Not telling you, but I was really worried about you." Sion suddenly approached. He was wearing a vest over a black shirt today, his work uniform looking quite sharp. He exuded a cold, unapproachable aura. He spoke, "AI Hunter Wilson, you've barely arrived at the encoding department, and you're already subjected to such trivial chatter?" His words were sharp as a knife. The two young men, just moments ago laughing and joking, were now sweating bullets and trembling. "Oh, of course not, sir. Sorry, Chief." He looked at Wilson, a smile playing on his lips. "You're right on time." Wilson met his gaze, anxiety rising within him, and remained silent. Sion continued, "Shall we? Let's go inside." Suddenly, a phone rings. Saheen pulls out his phone. The caller ID shows it's Kong Jae-yun. Seeing the name, his face darkens noticeably. He answers and turns to Yusin. "Excuse me, I need to take this call elsewhere. It's my boss." Saheen's expression immediately brightens, and he leans closer to Yusin with uncontainable excitement. "I'm a huge fan, Yusin." "Oh well, when the captain said that you'd be joining the raid this time, I was so surprised." He looks at Yusin with admiration, his eyes sparkling. Yusin, embarrassed, stammers, Yeah, thanks." Saheen continues, "It's great to see you getting your strength back." Still, it was a spectacular comeback. The return of the greatest dungeon conqueror. But Wu Jin, the idiot, was frozen, completely speechless. Seo Yun ended the call and walked over. "Hey Wu Jin," she said, "let's go. This moron is wasting my time." He thought to himself, if it's a raid, it has to be a link dungeon. If it's big enough for a demon king to appear, the media would be all over it. There'd at least be rumors of a dungeon reappearing. Why did Seo Yun call him here anyway? He entered the meeting room with her. Everyone was friendly, smiling, and welcoming. As he stepped inside, a pretty blonde waved at him. "Ah, you're here. Hello. You're the one who healed Mr. Osungjin. I am Manori, S-rank hunter." A handsome man with glasses standing nearby smiled warmly. "Hello. I've been looking forward to meeting you." "That's Kong Tae-soo, a rank hunter." Another woman stood there, dressed in formal attire as sharp as Chairman Sahian's suit. Her long hair was neatly tied back. "That's Shin Jaihai, a rank hunter," Ari said. "Everything's ready." Sahian patted him on the shoulder with a smile. "Hello. Shall we begin then?" "Mr. Wilson, this way, please." He sat down in a chair. He chose a seat right next to him. He spoke, "Mr. Wilson, I told you you'd find out soon, didn't I?" He recalled the awkward moments they had shared. Sahian picked up the remote and pressed a button. The projector screen flickered to life, displaying a montage of images from various locations. They were famous landmarks from all over the world. Wu Hyun looked at the pictures with a puzzled expression. He turned to Wu Jin and said, "We need you to enter dungeons and restore these ancient structures." He smiled and turned to Jihan. "Hunter Shin Jihan, let's begin." She pointed at the projector screen. "Everyone take a look." The image of a dilapidated, crumbling building appeared. Wu Jin immediately recognized the place, the district committee headquarters. "But I already restored that building." He glanced at Sion, who was listening intently beside him. "Was that restoration just a trick to get me here?" Jihan continued, "This is the building Wu Jin restored. It manifested as an A-rank dungeon during the first dungeon outbreak. After the first outbreak, we found black stones in the chairman's office. The numbers engraved on the stones indicate the remaining days until the second dungeon appears. Since the first one was an A-rank dungeon, the second one will be S-rank. There's still time before the next gate opens. Fortunately, we can still prepare. As the difficulty increases, the dungeon's duration will also lengthen. If we can't clear the dungeon, the destruction it causes will multiply, In some countries, rumor has it that major cities have been devastated because they couldn't stop the connected dungeons. The truth about the cause of these connected dungeons hasn't been revealed to the public yet. Cyan suddenly stood up, slamming his hands on the table. We have to wait for the Hunter Association to decide on a course of action. The man picked up the remote, switching the projected image to a pyramid. Take a look at this, Wilson, he said. This is the dungeon we just explored. Wilson looked surprised. A pyramid, huh? He leaned back against the wall, pondering. Lately, dungeons have started appearing, shaped like modern architecture. They're like themed dungeons. The inside of this pyramid was collapsing, making it a tough fight. The pathways were badly damaged, hard to navigate. Jian spoke up, sliding a box towards Wilson. This dungeon was just conquered by veteran hunters, and this was found in the boss room. Sayu pushed the box closer to Wilson. Open it, she said with a smile. Wilson picked up the box and opened it. Inside was a stone tablet with strange symbols and the number 8. They glowed. We predict he'll appear in the skies above Baghdad, Sayu added. That's what it says. Yuzhin looked up, a questioning expression on his face. Wait, could this be what they call the architecture of? He hesitated. Exactly. The theme of this raid is the 7 wonders of the world. Even though the dungeons will invade in the future, the architecture of these wonders is replicated, just as they were in the past, but in a ruined state. The situation right now is that only the first dungeon has appeared, out of a total of 7 connected dungeons. He suddenly circled behind the chair, leaning down close to him, and spoke in a cold voice. There are still 6 more dungeons. He noticed the fleeting expressions that crossed his face, immediately deciphered by him. He thought to himself, that's it. His 6 dead friends, and the 6 remaining connected dungeons. His latent ability and A ranks are irreplaceable. The reason he needs that ability, just looking at the map is enough to restore it. Just the thought of using it is disgusting. Now, I need to use my ability wisely to kill those people. He pats Wu Jin on the shoulder, leaning in, his voice a chilling whisper. Don't worry, Wu Jin, he murmurs. If I can't do it, you will. Fear paralyzes Wu Jin, leaving him unable to breathe or move. The meeting ends. Wu Jin returns to his office. He stares at the file in his hand, lost in thought. Even if there's a restoration map, what can I do? Lost in his contemplation, he doesn't notice Seo Hyun standing at the door, knocking. But the door is already open. With the same mischievous look, he asks, Are you satisfied with the office? Wu Xian's face hardens. He's lost all interest in talking. This guy's always flirting with that handsome face of his. He continues, I should have asked about your well-being first. If you're tired, you can rest for a bit. Pushing yourself only decreases efficiency. Wu Xian replies, I can't sleep anyway. I have insomnia. He looks curiously at the documents Wu Xian is reviewing. Sense anything yet? Wu Xian asks. Recovery seems a bit difficult this time. It seems like we have to restore it bit by bit, he says. He pretends he can't do it, but he's already figured it out, Wu Xian. He reaches out and gently ruffles Wu Xian's hair. Let's call it a day, shall we? Hang in there. He panicked, his face pale. His heart was pounding, his legs shaking. The man smiled and said, I need to stop by somewhere. Come with me. Wilson was confused, still unsure of what was happening. He suddenly remembered what the man had said earlier. I'm very good at taking care of people. He blushed crimson. Seo Hyun's request seemed more normal than he'd expected. The reward he offered was a bit much, but it was certainly tempting. Could Seo Hyun really be a level-headed hunter? Did he truly care about the country and its people? The thought suddenly crossed his mind. His approach was a bit unusual, but that was because he truly needed his abilities. And that thought, of course, was just a misunderstanding. He led him to a hospital. Lying in a hospital bed was a man, whose face was covered with a thin sheet. He approached the bed and turned to Wu Xian. It's time for your ability to shine, Wu Xian. Actually, the chairman passed away a few days ago. So, could I borrow your revival ability? His face paled. He stammered, if I revive him, will he end up like my friends? He calmly replied, Wu Xian. I didn't say I wanted him brought back to life. He pressed his hand down on the pillow. I just need his heart to beat again. Actually reviving him would be too much trouble. I've already experimented. Even A-rankers can't restart a heart. He closed the door and cautiously said, So it wasn't about the attack. It was about you wanting me to heal the chairman. Is that why you went to such lengths to recruit me? Sahin sat down. Both are reasons. For years ago, I saw the chairman's will. It clearly states the transfer of management rights to the Hunter Association. To go Songgang. For years ago, the association president suddenly suffered a stroke. He had two sons, S-rank hunter Go Hyun-woo and A-rank healer Go Yulgang. Between the two of us, who will succeed the president? Everyone's attention was focused. He recounted their conversation in the office. Chairman Go Yulgang was reviewing a document. He said, "The president has fallen into a deep coma. The chances of him waking up are slim. From now on, I will be in charge of the Hunter Association's internal affairs." As the vice president, Go Hyun-woo smirked. "So you're saying I should just step aside and let you take over everything, including access to the dungeons? So, you want me to get lost?" He stepped closer, voice menacing. "Then I'll leave this meeting. That's what you want." He roared in frustration. "It won't be that easy, Shaheen. I have a team for you to lead. Take care of it. For now." He glanced at the documents, his face darkening again. He stood up. "You know this, Wilson? If you want to truly crush someone," he leaned in closer, "the best way is to beat them at their own game." He chuckled. "I'm not about to hand over this chairman's seat to CO Yongan. Eliminating him would be an option, but that's too boring. That's why I'm keeping that team under him. Besides, the raid has officially begun. Inside the S-rank dungeon, the target of this attack is the 7 wonders of the ancient world." Usain asks in shock, "After completing the raid, will you eliminate the chairman and then announce the will?" He pulls up the chairman's mask. "Precisely. Now, can you use your regenerative abilities with this body yet?" Wilson stares at the man's face in horror. Suddenly, a knock on the door startles him. A voice calls from outside, "Excuse me, Mr. Shaheen, the vice chairman wishes to see the chairman." He replies, so impatient, "Tell him no." His response leaves the doctor flustered. He stammers, "But, even though I've told him multiple times that visits aren't allowed," he says coldly, "just refuse him, and that is my order." The doctor replied, "Yes, I understand." The doctor opened the door and left the room. Only Seo-hyun and Woo-jin remained. Seo-hyun spoke, "As you can see, Woo-jin, I don't have free time for others." Woo-jin asked, stunned, "You called it a proposal?" "That was a threat, coercion." He calmly replied, "Suggest what you want. I'll do it." Woo-jin turned back, hesitantly saying, Then I want a deal. Cancel the execution order for my friend. And when I want, reinstate it." He smiled. "Cancel? When? Where?" Woo-jin. With each word, he took a step closer to Woo-jin. His low, haunting voice made Woo-jin pale with fear. "Don't be scared," he smirked. He gently grasped Woo-jin's hand. "I'll do as you wish." He led Woo-jin closer to the hospital bed, looking at the man lying on the bed, frail, pale, barely clinging to life. Terror seized him, his entire body trembling uncontrollably. Slowly, he placed his hand over the frail ones. Woo-seon's ice-cold hand grasped his. It felt like holding a withered branch. Memories flooded back, images of loved ones lost, each one a fresh wound to his soul. The haunting memories clung to him, refusing to fade. He thought to himself, a silent vow forming in his heart. This would never happen again. He closed his eyes, taking a calming breath. "I'll begin." "I'm sorry, Chairman. I'm Trurisore." A light emanated from his hand. The hand holding the chairman's glowed brightly, dispelling the somber atmosphere in the room. Seo-hyun smiled, satisfied with his abilities. The whirring of machinery filled the air. A rapid, tense beeping followed. They stepped out of the room. Outside, Seo-hyun spoke. "You've worked hard, Woo-seon. I should get going now," you said. "All right," he replied. He stepped closer, put his arm around your shoulder, and smiled. "Let me walk you home." Woo-seon noticed the arm on his shoulder and politely declined. "It's okay. I need to pack some things first." He seemed to understand. Suddenly, he led Woo-seon to a shop. It was filled with necessities, a luxurious and expensive place. He said with satisfaction, "Well then, no need to go back there now, is there?" Woo-seon was stunned, mouth agape, staring at the exorbitantly priced items. Nearby, the employees murmured their approval, wearing bright smiles. He crossed his arms and continued, "Because once we move, there's no going back." Woo-seon looked at the bags in his hands, lost in thought. "If I had known this." "Bye, everyone." Jia-hui grabbed his wrist, taking the shopping bags. He lingered, seemingly unintentionally caressing his hand. "You always wear such baggy clothes. I didn't notice, but you're so thin." He whispered, "Well, it's understandable. Living with a corpse for a year, you can't exactly expect to eat well. Can you?" Startled by his words, he remained silent. Jia-hui released his hand. "From now on, let's eat together, okay?" Wilson looked up, surprised. Huh, we have a house, clothes. All we need to worry about is food now. Why do you always have to look so glum? Tell me what you like and don't like to eat. He stammered. I don't really have any strong preferences. Looking at Gia, whose seemingly carefree demeanor, he thought, is this why he said he'd take care of me? But I didn't expect it to be this serious. He said that. Then prioritizing a full nutritional diet comes first. His tone suddenly changed, and he looked at him with suspicion. Wilson, you're wondering why I'm doing this, aren't you? He stepped closer, placing his large hands on his small shoulders. Then he said slyly, because it's obvious. We're in the same boat now. He suddenly remembered what happened earlier. The beeping of medical equipment. It was to isolate me. I see. He even did that just now. I absolutely cannot breathe a word of this until Cyan's plan is complete. But I need Cyan's help too. I have to follow him. He opened the map app on his phone and showed it to him. Wilson, he said, pointing to a spot on the map. Tomorrow, you'll work here. Curious, Wilson asked, where is that? Just go there. Don't worry. Wilson, you said you have insomnia, right? Tonight, I'll help you get a good night's sleep. He looked at Wilson with a tender smile. A smile so charming it sparkled. It would make anyone's heart flutter. At this rate, Yujin will fall into his trap. The next morning, in Wilson's new apartment, he was sound asleep, hugging a pillow tightly. Sunlight streamed into the small room. He frowned, annoyed. Insomnia again. Wilson reached for his phone. He checked the time, 6:24 a.m. His joke had kept him awake all night. Tonight, I'll help you get a good night's sleep. What did he mean by that? Yujin left the apartment. Arriving at the location Sahayan pointed out yesterday while shopping, he found a construction site. He wondered why they were here. Sahayan and the other hunters were already there, chatting amongst themselves. Seeing Woojin, Sahayan flashed a bright smile. Woojin, you made it. Woojin turned to see Sahayan approaching him. He responded with a nod. Still the picture of a refined gentleman in his sharp suit, with his perfectly handsome face. Sahayan spoke seriously. Surprised, aren't you? Today, we'll be conducting a power assessment here. Woojin questioned. Power assessment? Gunwoo asked. Captain, didn't you tell him anything? Should have eaten a good breakfast before coming. With a calculating look, Sahayan remained silent. Gunwoo, sensing something was amiss, ran over and patted Woojin's shoulder consolingly. Oh boy, good luck with this. He still didn't understand, clueless as a deer in headlights. What's going on? He turned to the hunter Shin Jian, who pointed at the house under construction. Begin. Jian nodded curtly, acknowledging the order. She was a blur of motion, leaving everyone in the dust. Wilson was stunned by her speed. She was incredibly agile. After a short run, Jian abruptly stopped and crouched down. Then, she exploded upwards, launching herself higher than the roof. Suspended in midair, she raised a leg. Bam! The entire structure crumbled with a single kick. Her power was astonishing, truly breathtaking. Dust and debris billowed everywhere. Jian quickly shielded Wilson with her body, protecting him from the falling debris with her broad shoulders. He felt safe. He opened his eyes to a scene of utter devastation. Jian stepped out, not a scratch on her. It was as if she hadn't been the one who just demolished the building. He thought to himself, even though it's abandoned, it's still quite a massive structure. Everything was destroyed with a single kick. Sharing turned to him and said, all right, your turn to use fusion. He walked towards the mangled remains, smiling, and asked, that building, can you restore it? He was stunned, jaw agape, unable to believe what he'd just heard. Wilson walked closer to the rubble, examining it carefully. Compared to the district office, this building is much larger. But since it was just destroyed, restoring it should be easier. He touched a brick, closing his eyes. The original form appeared. A bright light erupted, lifting all the broken fragments into the air, returning them to their original positions. The ability left all three of them in awe. In the blink of an eye, the building was fully restored. Yojin, exhausted, gasped weakly. Done? It's done. He collapsed, overwhelmed. Just as he was about to face-plant, a hand reached out and caught him. Jia Hui smiled and said, something this trivial is giving you trouble. Exhausted but defiant, he replied. Nah, this is nothing. Suddenly, a whooshing sound cut him off. It was Jian, repeating her devastating moves from before. And with a deafening boom, the building crumbled once more. The smug man kept his arm around him, his voice dripping with condescension. Let's try that again, shall we? 4 hours later, Eugene collapsed in front of the half-built structure. Only half-built. He slumped down, gasping for air. Junwoo approached, using his magic to heal him. He thought to himself, how many times now? Heal, rebuild, repeat. Build it up just to tear it down? No wonder healers are in such high demand here. Cyan approached Han, asking if he was tired. Just a little, Han replied, sweat pouring down his face. He placed a hand on Han's shoulder, leaned in, and said, fusion. He kept seeing the image of a building collapsing and being rebuilt repeatedly. I told you to restore it bit by bit, remember? Cyan's voice was menacing, like a teacher scolding a disobedient student. Gangu rushed over to intervene. Captain, please give him a break. You're pushing him too hard. There's no time for breaks, Cyan retorted. It seems we have no other choice. Fusion's expression faltered. He suppressed his frustration and said dejectedly, it's okay, I can do it. Cyan looked at him with satisfaction. Good. Now, let's learn to control the range. They stepped inside the building. If you don't get used to this feeling first, you'll waste your potential if you go into that dungeon. Gangwoo chuckled derisively. It wouldn't be a problem if you could heal quickly. But inside the dungeon, your energy will be limited. He turned and said, come here, Woozing. Stand over there. What if that pillar collapses? Woozing hesitated. Then get closer to the pillar, he interrupted. But what if the ceiling collapses then? Are you starting to understand? Don't tell me you want me to restore the pillar from way over here? It was quite a distance. He thought to himself, easier said than done. Can I even do that? Normally, I only restore entire structures. He commanded, Woozing, get ready. As soon as he finished speaking, magic materialized in his hand, forming a dagger. He dashed forward, reaching the pillar in the blink of an eye. His eyes were sharp, his movements swift. With a spinning back fist, the pillar cracked and shattered in an instant. He was stunned, unable to believe it had broken so easily. He rushed to the wall, placing his hand on it, and using his ability to restore the pillar to its original state. Cyan looked back at the pillar, a satisfied smile on his face. Success! He was still in disbelief. That actually worked? He exclaimed in frustration. Why didn't you just tell me to kill myself? The other man replied coldly, his eyes devoid of emotion. Mr. Wilson, be more thorough. Let's see how far these cracks spread. With lightning speed, he slashed at the house pillars with his knife. Terrifying crashes echoed through the air. Wilson watched the pillars collapse one after another, panic rising within him. He stammered, wait man, too much at once. A rusty steel beam on the ceiling, decaying and worn, was about to give way. It groaned, swayed, and then plummeted down right behind Hyun. A loud bang echoed through the space. He turned around and saw another steel beam directly above Wilson, also on the verge of falling. Seeing him seemingly distracted and unaware, Hyun rushed forward, embraced Wilson, pulled him close, and said, hey Wilson, pay attention. What's going on? Wilson's eyes suddenly lit up, radiating a bright aura. He replied, I'm focusing intensely. Both looked up at the ceiling. The steel beam was fully restored, back in its original position. Hyun smiled with satisfaction. Good, that's the way to do it. At a press conference, a cacophony of murmurs and camera shutters filled the air. A reporter raised their hand to ask a question. The previous A-rank dungeon was just the first connected dungeon, correct? The middle-aged man behind the table responded. That's correct. Absolutely right. We have officially confirmed that. The A-rank dungeon that appeared last month was the first of this attack. Another reporter raises their microphone and asks, is it true that the rumored theme of this dungeon is that correct, sir? He replies, yes, the rumors are true. Inside the explored dungeon, we found a stone tablet within a pyramid. To ensure accuracy, we needed to analyze this tablet. This led to the delay in releasing information. We sincerely apologize for the inconvenience. His bodyguard standing beside him opens the box containing the stone tablet for everyone below to see. It reads, the next encounter will take place in the sky of Bada. He continues after gathering all the information. This dungeon raid is predicted to be linked to the 7 wonders of the world. A reporter asks, so doesn't that mean at least 7 dungeons will appear globally? And what countermeasures has the government decided on? He replies, firstly, only 3 Korean corporations, Taishin, Paradise, and Code, are capable of entering the dungeon. However, Code will be granted entry rights. As they discover the raid first, the reporters erupt in chatter. Questions fly from the crowd. When a raid occurs, the government provides support and rewards. What about the other corporations? Scene change. Inside the office, a sharply dressed man in a suit, legs crossed leisurely, watches the news on his phone. The exclusive card grants control over everything. Everything's going according to plan, isn't it? He glances over Cha Yun and Yusian's profiles, a sly smile spreading across his face. At the bank, Geek excitedly exclusive. Oh, really? You're being trained by the captain himself? No wonder I haven't seen you around lately. You must be super busy, huh? Exhausted, Yusian forces a weak smile. Jai continues. Training with the captain must be incredibly tough. Yusian flashes back to the grueling training sessions. Since that day, Cha-Yun had trained him in various terrains. I like to experiment in different conditions, he had said. From dawn till dusk, it was nonstop training, with occasional dungeon lectures thrown in. It was the first time I'd had a truly good night's sleep. He slept soundly in the soft bed, surrounded by stacks of books. Warm sunlight streamed through the window. Birds chirped merrily outside. Wilson woke up. He rubbed his stiff shoulders, thinking to himself, I didn't realize how exhausting this would be. No, wait. The training's fine, but I really miss Yeonju. Daiwi Iok was lost in his thoughts. Woo-suk's voice snapped him back to reality. Daiwi Iok, let's go. Oh, right, Daiwi Iok replied. Woo-suk then asked, have you heard anything about it lately? Lately? Yeah, everywhere I go, people are buzzing about the 7 dungeons and some code. Is it because of SAO's exclusive rights? Daiwi Iok asked curiously. Oh, you know about SAO? Woo-suk replied. Yeah, I've heard a little, Daiwi Iok answered. But if SAO has exclusive dungeon exploration rights, other organizations will be shut out. Woo-suk sighed. This is serious. Things are going to get chaotic. But we were the first to discover it, Daiwi Iok pointed out. Not to mention, we have a high success rate too. I also heard that Xinhua Broadcasting will be live streaming the raid. This time, we'll be on TV. Everyone will see us. That's so cool. We'll probably make a good amount of money, right? Woo-suk leaned in, whispering into Daiwi Iok's ear. Plus, I heard a rumor that the vice president had a hand in this. Don't you get what the VP is doing? You're so naive. Doesn't the vice president hate Cha-Hyun? An S-rank dungeon isn't exactly a walk in the park. Getting gems and rare items from there is tough. Isn't the vice president just wasting time and resources? If they succeed, the guild's reputation will skyrocket. But if they fail, the captain could lose their position. That's a real possibility. The vice president is playing a dangerous game. The elevator reached the 42nd floor. He continued to mutter to himself. Taking down the captain isn't easy. It's a real challenge. Judging by how they act, they don't exactly get along. The elevator doors opened and they froze. Just as they're talking smack about their bosses, said bosses appear. The 2 bosses are in a heated conversation. Taeju stammers. The vice chairman. Rewind to the boss's conversation moments earlier. The vice chairman adjusts his glasses, continuing his conversation with Seo Hyun. What did you do at the hospital? Visiting hours were canceled due to your father's sudden emergency surgery, and you were with him right before that. Seo Hyun coldly replies, well, you're the one who wanted him gone. Want your father dead so you can take over? Getting impatient. Are we? He steps closer. Don't provoke me. Don't you dare run to the chairman begging for your life again. Do what you want before I'm rumored to be useless. The vice chairman scoffs. Useless? He pointed at Sa-hyun. You're the one who should be careful, Sa-hyun. He nudged him. This attack will reveal your true potential. If you fail, Seoul will be destroyed. But know this, to crush your arrogance, I can do anything. Amidst the tension, the elevator doors suddenly opened. Jae-hyuk and Woo-sung locked eyes, hostility blazing between them. Jae-hyuk trembled. Why is the vice president here? The vice president's sharp gaze made him flinch. He approached, a smile playing on his lips. You're the newly arrived awakened, aren't you? It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Kyil-ryung Hwang. He extended his hand. Woo-sung stammered awkwardly. Yes, I am Dan Woo-sun. He continued, I'm quite curious. I wonder why. Why? You successfully passed Hanoi's rigorous recruitment process and landed a specialist programming position. You don't look that impressive, though. Just as their hands were about to meet, that comment hung in the air, leaving him feeling deflated and embarrassed. Cha-hyun stepped forward, placing his hand on top of Wilson's, preventing the handshake. All right, that's enough, he said. The air thickened with awkwardness. A vice president, scrutinizing an employee like that? He chuckled nervously, trying to recover. I apologize if I offended you. We're in a sensitive period right now, and I don't want to waste time on unnecessary things. That's all. Wilson felt a pang of insecurity. Suddenly, Cha Hyun placed a hand on his shoulder. Mr. Vice President, I personally recruited Wilson. My judgment has never been wrong. Irritated but keeping it in check, he said through gritted teeth, let's hope so. Then he took off. He left. Seo Haen's expression returned to its usual indifference as she cheerfully patted Woo Jin's shoulder. You look a bit pale. Are you all right? He recalled Yoo Hyuk's words. If he succeeds, the association's position will be elevated. If he fails, there's a chance the team leader will be dismissed. Very likely, he thought to himself. My existence could be a danger to Haeyeon. Yoo Hyuk approached, studying Woo Jin's back with a scrutinizing gaze. What's wrong? Don't tell me. He smirked. Let's go, Woo Jin. Hunter Kim Yoo Hyuk at your service. Today's the final meeting before the second dungeon raid. Time flew by. And finally, the day of the second dungeon raid arrived. The entire team was assembled. His face, clearly displayed, was broadcast across every news channel. Countless people watched and gossiped. Is the new KOS member the SAO revivalist? Could this be Code's secret weapon? What the heck is going on with SAO? One comment caught everyone's attention. Do Yujin was pretty famous recently, but he suddenly disappeared a year ago. He must have been paid a fortune to come back, right? Wilson doesn't think so, but he seems pretty greedy himself. Everyone was glued to their screens, watching the news. Comments flooded the feeds. Everyone opposed his appearance. Actually, Zhao was a bit worried too. You probably haven't had time to see it, have you? Don't you get it? What? Zhao was talking about everyone's reaction. Because of the previous live broadcast, the information was leaked. Everyone's worried, that's why they're overreacting. Where everyone stood, countless drones buzzed around, cameras focused on each individual face. The cameras were professionally set up. Jae-hyuk was suddenly irritated. A dungeon's about to appear, and you've got time to eat? What the hell are you doing? The reply was casual. It's fine. I don't mind it. He thought to himself, whatever anyone says, I have something I need to do. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blew, grabbing everyone's attention. A spatial rift opened in the sky. Hanging in midair, Jae-hyuk exclaimed excitedly. The dungeon must be opening. The rift expanded and glowed brightly. He gasped. A rank 2 dungeon. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. A reporter stood before a camera and announced. 3:36 p.m. A surprise rank 2 dungeon break. Dungeon level. S rank. Time until dungeon collapse. 40 hours. Ari stared at the gate in awe. That's a huge gate. Gunwoo replied. I've never seen a gate this massive before. Well, it is S rank, Ari commented, facing the imposing sight before him. His heart pounded as memories of that day flooded back. That fateful day, when he lost his loved ones. The unbearable pain, beyond words, etched deep within his mind, a constant reminder. He started seeing things. Phantoms of his friends appeared before him, just like that day. Suddenly, a large hand grasped his, pulling him back to reality. You worried? A deep voice asked, breaking through his thoughts. Their hands clasped tightly. He even raised their joined hands high in the air. He froze, stunned for a few seconds. Embarrassed, he quickly pulled his hand back, stammering, I've seen it. Arian suddenly cut in, breaking the tension. Honestly, there's no need to be embarrassed here. Don't worry. You'll understand why Code is Korea's top team. Wilson was astonished. Hunter Han Ayan spoke up. Shaheen's right, let's go. I'll show you why. The group headed towards the gate. Beyond the gate lay a completely different world. A world shrouded in pitch-black darkness. He thought to himself, I can't believe I'm actually entering a dungeon. Jia, Hui ordered. Clear it out within 4 hours. Hunter Kim, Joo Hyuk shouted. Yu-gi? He excitedly raised his glowing staff. Light radiated from the staff, illuminating their surroundings. Before them was a staircase, broken in two. He stepped onto the crumbling stairs. They were so damaged, it was hard to tell what they originally looked like. But this was definitely the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Recalling images from his memory, he began using magic to restore them back to their former glory. It's okay, he muttered to himself. I can do this. Fragments of stone and earth levitated, slowly returning to their original positions. He visualized the entire structure. From the foundation, the stairs, the railings, the pillars to the ceiling. In the blink of an eye, everything was perfectly restored. He had exhausted himself, sweat pouring down his face. He stood up and turned to the others. The first floor is complete, he announced. Jae-hyuk looked at him with admiration. Amazing, so cool, Gunwoo exclaimed, eyes wide with astonishment. Didn't you practically recreate the whole thing? Ari spoke up. If we have to restore it like this every day, who knows what will happen, right? Brilliantly, Jihan simply nodded in agreement. He slowly descended the stairs, his body exhausted. Cyan watched him, a smile gracing her lips. Wu Jin, you did great. Your ability is truly... Before she could finish, Wu Jin collapsed, his energy completely spent. He stumbled, his steps faltering, and fell in his strong arms. A masculine embrace. Are you all right? A voice asked. Asterisk, not yet. I haven't even cleared the first floor. Asterisk, he thought. I can't collapse now. He pushed himself away, struggling to regain his composure. I'm fine. I still have things to do. The man saw the determination in his eyes. He turned to the others. Team, let's move. Together, they ventured deeper into the first floor. Cyan led the way. Tangled roots and cracked earth walls surrounded them. Everyone was horrified by the sight of the terrifying roots. Suddenly, someone stepped on a loose tile, causing it to collapse. Ari shouted, "Watch out! It's a trap!" A giant man-eating flower burst forth, lunging at everyone, sending them scattering in panic. Screams echoed everywhere. Jia swiftly circled behind the monster and unleashed a powerful kick, but the blow didn't faze it. It only grew more enraged and swelled in size. Seeing the roots trying to ensnare everyone, Aaron yelled, "We need backup! We need assistance now!" Jiawu reacted instantly. He used his glowing staff, conjuring a torrent of water that engulfed the monster. The monster was trapped. Arian drew his weapon, smashing his club against the heads of the plant demons. They were completely destroyed thanks to the trio's coordinated attack. Jiawu cleaned up the aftermath. His staff had exhausted its ability to conjure water, and this time it can even create fire. The flames instantly incinerated all the monsters, reducing them to ashes. He thought to himself, "This is amazing. The power of the code is completely different from watching it on video. I can feel the pressure and the intensity that those videos could never convey." A fierce flame erupted, illuminating the entire building. Arian scolded, "Hey, how many times have I told you? Using fire and water magic at the same time causes serious damage?" Teju replied, "Just think of it as the fire burning away the mud." Ari saying you're wasting your energy, while everyone else is fighting their hardest. Drones above recorded everything, capturing every moment. They emitted annoying buzzing sounds. Behind Yu Xiong, a sudden flash of light appeared, taking advantage of the momentary lapse in vigilance. The squirming branches on the ground had crept closer to the two unnoticed. User Gungun was caught off guard and panicked. A grotesque monster materialized. He screamed, but then it was sliced to pieces. Only the sound of sharp blades slicing through flesh was heard. Cyan had reacted swiftly, annihilating it in the blink of an eye. He said to the hunter, "My apologies. Let's move forward. You cover our rear. The path is clear. Let's go." Cyan glanced at User Gungun, who was sitting on the ground, with a haughty look. "Good work." User Gungun, at the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, 4th floor, rooftop, once again used his ability to heal them. This time, he was truly exhausted, gasping for breath. Gungun rushed to his side, worried. "Ego, User Gungun, are you all right?" Cyan, ignoring him, walked on. "It's fine." He said that as if no one was paying attention to him. He felt a little bit hurt. Gnu is worried. He's been using his healing ability, but it's not working. He kept healing himself while going up to the rooftop. It must have been tiring. Everyone approached a massive gate. Hanari observed the situation and said, "Oh, the captain has arrived at the boss room." He started warming up, confidently saying, "All right, let's go." He assigned tasks to each hunter. Hanari, "Hunter Karui, you go first. Naganu, provide rear support. Protect Yusian. Hunter Shinjian, support me. The rest of you, wait for orders." He pushed the door. It creaked a few times before bursting open. Inside was a gigantic tree, the space brightly lit. Hanari slung her staff over her shoulder and said excitedly, "Not bad at all. It's beautiful." Everyone stepped inside together. Suddenly, a deafening explosion rocked the ground. The trees suddenly moved, and a terrified voice echoed. "The time has come. My garden." Cyan adjusted his gloves, preparing for battle. "All right, our target is that boss over there. Get ready." The gigantic tree groaned menacingly, emitting terrifying sounds like something straight out of hell. "I knew you would come." Suddenly, a loud bang echoed. The massive door slammed shut, completely sealing them off from the outside world. Countless branches snaked out from everywhere, surrounding them. Cyan called out, Gun, respond. I'm going to buff us now." He raised his staff high, and a blinding light emanated from it. Cyan, Arian, and Gungun all felt a surge of energy coursing through their bodies. They felt invigorated and powerful. "Hunter Arian," he commanded, "analyze the surroundings immediately." "Roger," Arian replied. She twirled her staff and declared to the monster, "Are in our way." The surrounding branches were instantly sliced through, but it dodged them. Ari exclaimed in astonishment. "It evaded my attack." "What the hell is this thing?" Gunwu shouted from behind. "Looks like physical attacks don't work on it." "Well, it is a tree." Gunwu used his staff to conjure a stream of fire towards the tree. Branches were severed, but they reconnected instantly. Worse, it seemed to have angered the creature. It roared furiously, and eyes opened on its branches. Both of them were horrified. Gunwu stammered, "Did I make it worse?" "Oh my god!" Ari cried out. "Why did you wake the damn thing up? It was sleeping." "Neither physical nor magical attacks are working." Jaeyoung stepped in front of Gunwu and Wilson, shielding them. He wondered, how on earth was Hyunwoo planning to deal with this monster? Sarung kicked at the creatures crawling on the ground, one by one. Arihan screamed in despair. They were overwhelmed. Cyan smiled, whispering, "Now things are getting interesting." "Everyone fall back to the wall we were at before," he shouted. Dark, ominous tendrils of energy enveloped sight. They tightened around the monsters. The monsters couldn't move. He watched them struggle in pain, a cruel smile playing on his lips. Wuxian thought, he's luring them closer together. The tree monster went berserk. It swung its massive branches at everyone, but they were all sliced through. He thought, it's still relentlessly attacking. If anyone gets dragged over there, they'll be impaled. It roared, "Not enough. I'm still unharmed." It stretched sprouting arms and legs. Cyan said, "Get ready. It's coming." It bellowed, "Blood. Give me blood." Cyan remained calm. "Everyone, form a circle around it." Arihan charged forward excitedly, twirling his staff. "Let's send this demon back to hell." Yuhyun and Jihan charged forward. "I'll give it my all too." The colossal monster was scorched in several places by Gunwa's flames. Jihan leaped into the air, delivering a powerful kick to its head. It writhed in pain from the burns. Sahayan used his ability, slicing off one of its arms with his blade. Gunwu cheered excitedly. "Amazing. Now he just needs to split that thing in half." Yuhyun's face paled. "It's regenerating." New limbs sprouted from the severed ones. The monster roared. "You humans are quite impressive." It swung its arm, striking and injuring Arin. "This is going to take longer than I thought." The small boy, Sahayan, thought to himself. Sahayan could move with terrifying speed through the darkness, too fast for the naked eye to follow. It's like he vanishes every time he's attacked. Wuxian's gaze falls on the tree monster's roots. He clenches his fist, watching Seo Hyun struggle against the monster. At this rate, he'll exhaust himself. As the battle rages, a familiar light engulfs the entire area. Wuxian places his hand on the ground. The light seeps into every corner of the room. He's activating his healing ability. Seo Hyun calls out in confusion. Wuxian, distracted, caught off guard. The monster lunges at him with its elongated arms, but he's too quick, blinking to a different spot. The roots erupting from the ground are met with his power, forcing bricks into them, inflicting intense pain. He thinks to himself, maybe we can bury it under all this rubble. The monster roared in agony. Its roots were slowly being engulfed by the debris. "I can buy the others some time, if I can keep these roots trapped." The monster was immobilized. It growled, "Clever trick, human." Sayek realized it wasn't as aggressive. It was restrained. He yelled, "Now! Attack!" All four of them charged forward. "I'll crush this scrap metal," it shrieked. In an instant, Arian leaped into the air and smashed one of its arms with his club. Bia jumped and grabbed onto the broken limb, ripping it apart with her sword. Gano provided support. He used his ability to amplify his teammates' strength. Yua spoke confidently. "This time, we'll burn you to ashes." Blazing fireballs hurtled towards the monster. It roared in agony. "My body. I will never forgive you, insignificant insects. I will drain every last drop of your blood." Ari shouted, "Captain Cha Hyan, now's your chance to finish this." Cha Hyan seized the opportunity and sprang into action. The monster continued to scream in despair. "I will crush every single one of you and savor each drop of your crimson blood." It thrashed, shattering the earth and stone that bound its arms. Suhyong screamed. Cha Hyan smirked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You're too slow." He soared into the air, armed with only a small dagger. Yet he cleaved the monster in two. It shrieked its final, agonizing screams. A single leaf materialized from its remains. The leaf pulsed with a brilliant, blinding light. It seemed to be dead, but this monster was incredibly persistent. It continued to speak. "You fool. Did you really think you could destroy me with this pathetic thing?" Seo Hyun was stunned. "Impossible. It regenerated?" Seo Hyun exclaimed in disbelief. "You're the fool. All I have to do is completely eradicate your life source." The knife in his hand transformed into a sharp sword. He had realized its weakness, the leaf. That was its heart. He lunged forward, thrusting his sword directly into the leaf, shattering it into a million pieces. "Excellent!" Aryan cheered. The captain breathed a sigh of relief. The monster started to regenerate once more, but then suddenly withered. Gangwoo sighed. "It's finally dead." Reporters rushed in, snapping pictures, carefully examining the tree monster. Exhausted, Seo Hyun slumped against the wall. Go-Gun used his ability to heal him. Cyan, with a serious expression, approaches Yujin and sits down. "I made the right decision choosing you for the team, but I have to admit, your last move completely surprised me." Yujin looks at Cyan's outstretched hand, flashbacks of what happened running through his mind. The death of his comrade when Cyan was in danger. "What are you waiting for?" Yujin reaches out and takes Cyan's hand. Their hands clasp firmly. Cyan stands up, smiling, and walks towards the others. Wilson, exhausted, has fallen asleep without realizing it. So frustrating. The second dungeon, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, has been conquered by Chot. The news is reported widely, capturing the public's attention. Chot has successfully cleared the second dungeon. People all over the world are focusing on the Seven Wonders, the ancient world dungeons, also known as the Seven Raids. Chot's first live raid was a victory. They conquered the dungeon in under 4 hours. Isn't that incredible? The stone was discovered after clearing the second dungeon. They also found a stone tablet containing data, with details about the next dungeon. The internet is overflowing with praise. No more complaints or scorn like before. The vice president faces a barrage of questions from reporters. Camera flashes blindingly as he speaks. "I am truly overjoyed to hear of their success in clearing the dungeon. This is a proud moment for our entire B-Rank team. We will continue to do our utmost to support the company's elite combatants." Reporters shout questions. "Sir, can you tell us more about the newest member? The one assisting you, Song-yeon? Can we get an interview with him?" The support plays a crucial role in conquering dungeons. Was his final move part of the higher-ups' plan? He replied, "I apologize, but I can't speak for him. However, I'm certain that both Mr. Jong and the leadership are deeply grateful for everyone's support and concern." His tone was possessive and menacing, silencing the reporters. No one dared to ask another question. At Wilson's apartment, he lay curled up in bed, covers pulled tight, his breath ragged. Sweat soaked through the sheets. He stared at his trembling hands and thought, how many days has it been? I didn't realize constantly using my hidden power would take such a toll on my body. This is devastating. Plus, I had to use my ability continuously for hours. I even had to give it my all in the last minute. Still, I'm glad I could contribute even a little. I need to excel at my mission, so... Do you remember before Fusion was hospitalized? Everyone crowded around you, making you choke. They kept saying, "Is that Wilson's latent ability? Amazing. He created it from scratch. Wilson, do you need a tissue? He's a national treasure. I think he's more like God or the sun." Are you guys serious? Don't flatter him too much. How can he eat with all this commotion? What the heck, Jong-jun? You're the loudest one here. Anyway, with what Wilson accomplished, he burst out laughing. "Come on, guys, can you be quiet? Get out, or I'll throw a spoon. You're on your own." They burst into laughter. "Look how cool he is. Glad you were strong enough to throw it away. Did we seem cruel to you? How could we let you suffer alone like that? Those beautiful memories, the joy of being with friends. Back to reality. It's always the same. I hate this loneliness, but what I hate even more is that I still remember them." A woman enters and knocks on Zen's door. "I'm here to check on you." Zen wearily tries to sit up. She takes his temperature. "You still have a slight fever, but your blood pressure is stable again. You need to take your medicine regularly." "Isn't that the medicine I bought you yesterday? Haven't you taken it yet? If you're not going to take your medicine, at least eat something." Zen wearily replies, "I'm fine. Just a little lost my appetite." "I told you, if that's the case, I won't ask about your condition anymore, don't. You're avoiding the question again." "Thank goodness, I'm okay." Yahui suddenly appears and says, "Excuse me, I'll take care of the rest." She leaves. He approaches Seojun. "Seojun, you're so stubborn." Still stunned, Seojun asks, "What are you doing here?" He continues to ask, "Did you take the wrong medicine or something?" He stands, looking down at Seojun sitting on the bed. He places a hand on Seojun's shoulder, gently sitting down in front of the bed. He says, "Let me feed you." Seojun covers his mouth, refusing. "That's not important. What's important is when you're going to do that." Sihyun asks, confused. "Do what?" He slowly stands up, but his hand remains on Seojun's shoulder. Woojin continues, "We conquered a dungeon. As per our agreement, I have the right to make a request." He uses his nullification ability. "I need you to prove. Let's see if this actually works. If not, Wilson, hold my hand. I'm skipping the next dungeon raid." He chuckled, leaning closer. "You seem to have the wrong idea, but that's okay. Think of this as a vacation. After I successfully complete this mission, I'll leave. After you finish this food and take your medicine, of course." He lifted the bowl of porridge, spooning a bite towards him. A bright, cheerful expression. "Open wide now." Shu stared at him blankly. "Are you serious?" Sayan maintained his expression, radiating a brilliant aura. "Of course," he threatened playfully. "If you don't finish this, I'm not going anywhere." He panicked. "Are you forcing me to eat?" He continued to smile. "That depends on your attitude." He looked at the smug, shameless face and sighed. This guy hadn't changed a bit. Just like old times. He obediently opened his mouth and ate the porridge. Standing before his old apartment building, he hesitated. Sayan, walking behind him, asked, "What's wrong? Does it feel weird to be home?" He tightened his grip on his bag strap, realizing he'd never been away from home for so long. "I hope everything's all right. What if something happened?" he worried. He entered the passcode and opened the apartment door. Hearing the noise, the bodies inside began to emerge. He observed the shock on the boy's face, then stepped inside first. Now, who should I deal with first? He wondered. He walked towards a man standing by the door and pointed. But the boy grabbed Lee Anjuin's arm. "This one first," he said. Sayan removed his gloves. "All right." He touched the man. He used his ability. Dark, sinister threads enveloped his hand. Darkness enveloped, like the hand of a demon devouring Cheon-jun. He suddenly collapsed. Woo Hyun frantically caught him, repeatedly calling out, "Cheon-jun, Chung." His eyes were closed. He stared stunned at the person in his arms. He wouldn't open his eyes. He wasn't moving or making any sound. Who would have thought Sa-hyun's ability could do this so easily? He asked, "Is he dead?" Sa-hyun put his gloves back on. "Since Cheon-jun is already legally dead," he said, "we can't hold a proper funeral for him. I was about to call the authorities to have him cremated. Is that all right with you?" Let me say goodbye to him first." Sa-hyun turned to leave. "Don't take too long." He walked out and closed the door. His eyes flash. The former innocence replaced with a chilling sharpness. He's standing right outside the door. Is he watching me? Maybe he's afraid I'll commit suicide. With the terrifying power of an A rank, there must be conditions to using it. Like when Sa-hyun uses his shadow powers. He needs to connect directly with the darkness. Me? I can't hurt others. No matter what happens, I can't harm my friends or myself. He says, "I'm sorry, Aeon-jun. Once I've helped those people out there, I'll come to see you guys." 8 years ago, in Yongin, his friends, each carrying a bag, were chatting with each other. "Dad, I asked you a lot of questions before letting me go on this trip." "Yeah, me too. It took forever to convince my parents. I told them I was going on a trip with some classmates, and they actually told me to have a great time. They even gave me extra spending money. I'm so jealous." "Wow. You're buying lunch then?" "What? Why me? How about barbecue?" Woo Xian arrives late, running towards them. "The bus hasn't left yet, has it?" Everyone laughs. "You're the last one here. You're buying lunch. Finally, what took you so long?" "Hurry up, Woo Xian." Out of breath, he grins. "Sorry I'm late." That day, the day of our high school graduation trip, we were all so excited, until disaster struck. They stop at a restaurant. The lively chatter suddenly stops. We've all been going to the same middle school since. Same middle school, same high school now. So, what's the big deal? I don't want to see your face anymore, you idiot. What if we end up at the same college? No way. We'll go our separate ways by then. I'm tired of seeing you guys all the time. I want to make new friends. Did you just say something? You guys are so dumb. You're forgetting. We have to pass the awakening test before college. All right. Ever since the Awaken Management Agency was established, everyone has to take an aptitude test. When they reach a certain age, The test basically separates the population into normals and awakened. Awakened people only make up 10% of the total population. I heard only a few get chosen to be hunters. If we awaken, we don't even need to worry about college entrance exams. Let's form a team. What if we all pass the test? You think you'll be rank D or higher? I mean, rank F is full of regular people. The four-eyed boy says confidently, just wait and see. Who knows, maybe I'll even get into rank A. Cherish these moments with me while you can. Once I'm famous, I won't have time for you guys. His two friends laugh. Someone's got a big ego. To get into rank, you gotta be handsome. You need the looks to attract followers. Maybe in your next life. Speaking of which, has anyone seen Sahya? He's already famous even before his official debut. Compared to him, we're all nothing. Hey, you guys are much better. Yujin spoke up. Seems like everyone wants to be an awakened these days. I'm not interested in going into any dungeons. What are you talking about? Aeon Jun. But you're supposed to be a young and compassionate healer, just like what his initials stand for. Wilson replied, embarrassed. Will you quit teasing me? He continued, so, your parents must be so proud. They'll probably hang banners all over Yongin. She kicked him a few times. Aeon Jun burst out laughing. Okay, I'm just kidding. Stop kicking me. That girl's watching, he teased. Look, Yujin's blushing. She said, exasperated, shut up, he's just joking. Suddenly, the TV program switched to a breaking news report. We interrupt this program for an urgent news bulletin. The C-rank dungeon that appeared in Yongin has been confirmed as an A-rank. This A-rank dungeon has caused a large explosion, reaching the residential area, causing a significant number of casualties. At this time, it's difficult to accurately assess the full extent of the damage. The Hunter Association has been deployed to immediately secure the site. Unfortunately, the devastation is expected to be immense. Due to the explosion occurring during evening rush hour, we lost our parents, Wilson recalls, in the Ionjin dungeon collapse. Our remaining relatives reluctantly took us in. 6 months later, all we had was a government-provided apartment, the growing apathy of the public, and a mountain of debt left by our parents. The group lived together in that apartment, consumed by a somber, grieving atmosphere. Those old enough, like Jin Woo, hoped to pass the awakening test. In the office, the bald man spoke up. Looks like this place is mostly filled with D and E rankers. We could just let them rot in the dungeon. There seems to be an A ranker among them, sir. Another man, sitting with a cold, hard expression, speaks up. Well, this is what we've been looking for. They should have been born into a more prestigious family. He's the chairman of United Guild. He's holding a hunter recruitment form. Everyone starts murmuring and whispering amongst themselves. Becoming a member of United Guild comes with a 5% interest rate benefit. All expenses will be directly covered by the guild. Those who sign a contract with United Guild will not be permitted to collaborate with any other guild for the duration of the contract. Another person speaks up. What the hell? What kind of ridiculous terms are these? But we can't really refuse them, can we? Even if we sign with another guild, they'll just keep hounding us. Damn it. I'm out of options. Woozing, you should stay out of this. You're the only one in our group without debt. Woozing hesitated. But I want to help you guys. With my abilities, you could leave that guild much faster. They just do whatever that chairman tells them to. Facing pressure from the United Guild and crippling debt, we relied on each other just to survive. Struggling through each grueling day. Dreaming of moving somewhere better. Once we paid off our debts. For years later, amidst the city's ruins, an announcer's voice boomed. We will review the dungeon status in 5 minutes. Woozing's friend held up a phone, excitedly saying, Dude, look, your video hit 1 million views. Seriously? Maybe I should stream again sometime. Woozing snapped. Cut it out. Enough already. Aeon Jun said, just kidding. How about starting your own YouTube channel? We finally completed the last mission. We've been through so much together. This whole time. You should consider telling everyone you're an AI. After we leave United. Yusin replied, What are you talking about? You guys are my family. Wherever you go, I'll follow. An announcement. The dungeon has been cleared. Everyone can begin restoring this area. Yusin touched a brick using his ability. Suddenly, the breach scanner alerted 99%. A crack suddenly appeared near where Yusin was standing. Everyone was shocked. What's happening? Aeon Jun yelled. Yusin! He looked up in surprise. A gate was slowly opening in the sky. It emitted a blinding light, and everything around crumbled. It felt like a massive earthquake. Wu Xian lay flat on the ground, terrified. What's going on? Am I in a dungeon? But how? I heard it was destroyed. The entire guild, the excavation team, they all vanished. What is happening? Where is everyone? He blinked, seeing bodies scattered everywhere. Everyone was unconscious. He dragged his friends into a nearby small cave. He shook Hyunjun. Hey, wake up, come on. Slowly, they started to regain consciousness. No one knew what had happened. A strange light suddenly emanated from outside the cave. One friend stammered, That's a monster. They peeked outside. A gigantic monster emerged. It was devouring people. The sight was horrifying. Chairman United witnessed the scene, trembling, his voice a stutter. What the hell is that? This is no ordinary monster. Hearing the noise, it whips around. Its crimson eyes lock onto him. Wilson watches, terrified, but a thought flashes through his mind. I have to save them. A classmate grabs Wilson's arm. The ruthless chairman shoves his underling towards the monster, snarling. Hold it back, you useless fool, you worthless dog. The underling, trembling in terror, is instantly ripped apart. The chairman, horrified, runs for his life, frantically searching his pockets. Damn it, the poison. Where's my antidote? Why is there such a terrifying monster in a low-level dungeon? He finally finds the vial in his breast pocket, fumbling to open. Hurry! Open it! But before he can, the monster is upon him. He's torn to shreds. The vial clatters to the ground, right in front of Wilson and the others. Frozen in fear, their faces ashen, they don't dare make a sound. Only the chairman's dying screams echo. Help me. Hey. June spoke up. Yuzin, stay here. We have to go save the others. Yuzin was stunned. What? What are you talking about? Why should I stay here? June stepped forward and took Yuzin's hand. Yuzin, you're a healer. Fighting in the dungeon is the hunter's job. You need to help the people outside survive. Don't worry, we'll be back soon. The group rushed out. Yuzin was left alone in the cave. Each of them possessed unique abilities. A loud shout echoed. Hey, you damn monster. Over here, I'm the opponent you're looking for. Those about to be devoured by the monster wept with joy. It's the hunters. We're saved. We'll survive this. We'll get out of here. The monster roared in fury. It charged towards them, scattering those in its path. They used their powers to hold it back. Run! Li Jun shouted. We'll distract it. This is the first time a dungeon has opened a second time. The major guilds are sure to arrive soon. We just need to wait for them. It lunged wildly, striking back at the guy with the helmet. If it weren't for his shield, he'd be dead. Are you all right? Li Jun asked anxiously. Yeah, I blocked it, he replied. Before he could finish, the monster lashed out with its sharp tail, sending him flying. To everyone's horror, it charged towards him. Before the monster's tail could pierce him, a figure leaped forward, shielding him, blood splattered, spraying across his face. Everyone screamed in terror. It had killed a hunter. Run! I don't want to die here. Wu Xian stood frozen, his eyes blurring with tears. On Sujin crouched on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. What am I doing? Hiding here like this? No matter what, I can't break down here. Everyone's fighting out there. I'm just a healer, but I have to be able to do something. We're all going to survive this. We're going to make it out. Sujin dragged on Junhyang's body. No, he can't be dead. Panic set in. Sujin's trembling hands gently touched Junhyang's face. Are you okay? Please be okay. You're just slightly injured, right? She clutched him tightly, sobbing. Right? Please, just give me a sliver of hope. Sujin pressed her ear against Junhyang's chest. I know you're still alive. Say something. Only a terrifying silence answered. Suddenly, she heard a blood-curdling scream from outside. She rushed out. The monster rampaged, leaving a trail of bodies in its wake. Victim after victim fell beneath its brutal attacks. Suddenly, a faint cry reached him. Wujin run. He stumbled back towards the cave where Hyunjun was. Tears welled up as he choked out. Don't worry, I'll save you. I have to. Everything will be all right. The professor's words echoed in his mind. Never resurrect a creature. Not just for ethical reasons, but more importantly, we can't predict a creature's form after resurrection. No, I can't think about that now. He reached out and touched Hyunjun. A faint light emanated from his hand. His friend's broken fingers began to mend. Back to normal. They're just lightly injured, he reassured himself. We've faced worse in countless dungeons. Always together, always having each other's backs. They'll be okay. Li Jun's body fully recovered. He stood up, but his eyes were now completely empty, lifeless. He growled like a wild animal. A glimmer of hope flickered in Wilson's eyes. He smiled happily. Yes, his friends couldn't be dead. He started reviving them one by one. The results were all the same. No consciousness, no life. Just moving corpses. Wilson stood stunned before the monster. Before the monster could attack Wilson, Lee Jun stepped in to take the hit once again. Tears fell from his eyes. Don't worry, I'll save you. You'll be all right. I'll heal you, no matter how many times it takes. They kept attacking the monster, like mindless machines, dying and being revived, trapped in an endless loop. Let's conquer this dungeon together, and let's get out of here together. Finally, the monster is defeated. Wu Jin looks at his friends, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Outside the gate, countless reporters and journalists are broadcasting live. The gate suddenly flashes, and everyone starts talking excitedly. A survivor. Wu Jin, covered in wounds, walks out alone. He clutches a vial of poison in his hand and says, I'm the only survivor. My friends are all dead. They sacrificed themselves fighting the monster until their very last breath. Back in the present, he hugs Li Juwan's body tightly. I'm sorry. After I help the others, I'll come join you, be with you all. Wu Jin walks out of the house, his steps heavy with grief and despair. In the distance, Hui notices Wu Jin's complete breakdown. I'm afraid he might do something reckless. It's dangerous. There are still people inside, but he calmly replies, someone will come and take your friend's body to the crematorium. You don't have to do anything. I just hope you can recover soon. You still have a lot to do. Me too. Wu Xian regains his composure. I know you don't need to tell me that. Wu Xian walks ahead. Seihyun follows behind him, lost in thought. Back at the company, the team is in a meeting. The stone tablet, carefully kept in a small briefcase, is open for everyone to examine. Rule says, the writing on this is ancient Greek. You shall be punished for your sins on the summit of Mount Kronos. According to the text decryption experts, the theme for the third dungeon will be a god who will punish humanity and the other gods by using lightning. The statue of Zeus at Olympia thought, is the ancient wonder of the world this time the statue of Zeus? But I've only just restored the temple. The statue was already there. My fever's gone, and I can move normally again. I need to work hard to make up for the lost 5 days. While recovering, Dawi Yaquinard, wouldn't the ground crack from all those lightning strikes? Arian retorted, seriously? We're going to have to fight our crush? Dawi Yi continued, if it's a temple, why don't we try offering a gift? I read in Greek mythology that maybe Zeus will go easy on us. Arian scoffed. Oh my god, look at you. Do you only use your brain once a year? Or how about we offer you up as a sacrifice? Did you hear that? Jai-Hai froze, speechless. While the two were arguing, Wilson innocently raised his hand. What if I can't restore the statue? Gonna held Arian back from kicking Jai-Hai, giving Jai-Hai a break. Smiling, he replied, I don't think that's a problem. It's a dungeon, after all. You can't stop the boss from appearing. Cyan added, lightning will continuously strike and destroy the terrain. What? Shouldn't you focus on restoring the fighting area? So no, debris gets in the way? Wilson dejectedly replied, all right, meeting adjourned. The lights turned on. Arian and Jai-Hai were still bickering. Cyan stood up and said, Hunter Arian, I'd like to speak with you privately. Arian asked in surprise. What's so serious? Why are you leaving with him? Oh my god, my gemstones, she wailed. Yusin asked curiously, gemstones? Jiwook replied, alright, you probably don't know. Ariane needs minerals to awaken her latent abilities. But it'll be much more entertaining if you witness it without knowing. You'll be absolutely mind blown. Wilson scratched his head. Really? Jiwook turned to leave. Well, I should get going too. Want to know where I'm headed? He answered cheerfully, to school. I have homework to turn in. Seeing Yusin's confused expression, Jiwook felt a little disappointed. Oh, you didn't know I'm in college? Really? How did you not know that? I'm your fan. I know everything about you. Gungo interjected. Fan? More like a stalker. Yusin replied, well, I didn't know we were the same age. Yui and Yusin arrive at school together. In places like this, he's always anxious and worried about being exposed. Don't be so timid. Look around. He thinks to himself, I can't believe I'm actually walking here with her. At least we're not being followed. I've always wondered what school was like. Yusin suddenly coughs, his face pale and tired. Yui asks worriedly, are you okay? You've been coughing a lot. Yusun replies, Ayu fine. Are you an art major? He smiles. That's right. What did you think I studied? Yusin innocently answers, something related to sports, maybe? He looks embarrassed and weak. Actually, I'm terrible at sports. I'm as fragile as a piece of paper. The only one who's both strong and can use magic is Aries. Yusin suddenly understands. He cheerfully leads the way. This way. Do you mind if I come to your class? Dewey Huck replied, not at all. My professor's a fan of yours too. I'll give you a tour of the campus later. Come on, Mr. Big Shot. Let me broaden your horizons. I want to show you my burning artistic soul. Are you kidding me? What do people call you again? The cologne guy from the fine arts department? Mr. Awkward. Please erase that from your memory. You're laying it on thick, but it's fun. All the pieces are amazing, he said with a smile. Are you hungry? I heard they're serving steak burgers today. He replied, absolutely. But don't most people rank higher than D level? Skip college? He said confidently. Oh, about that. I took the awakening test pretty late because I was busy studying for entrance exams. Even though I was only a B rank, I was determined to go to college. I didn't want all my hard work to go to waste. So I chose to become a hunter. I figured it was a better option than dying from homework overload. He stomped his foot in frustration. You could have had those fun college experiences too, if it weren't for that damn guild. He glanced over at the students strolling around campus, laughing and enjoying the life he longed for. A bright smile lit up his face. Yeah, I guess you're right. Suddenly, Daiwi Eek felt a surge of happiness. You just smile? I've never seen you smile before. He responded sheepishly, no. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut in. He's right. I guess you're still comfortable being outside. Regardless of your current state, Du Yuxiang stood frozen, jaw agape in astonishment. Sahin, tall and imposing in a long coat, strode towards the two of them. I can't believe you actually enjoy inflicting pain, Wilson.